Andre LaFountain in the house with us today. Andre, welcome.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Man, we do have a lot to jump into.
Should we change the name of the podcast today to One Big Dumpster Fire?
Oh, man. You know, we can kind of cannonball anywhere we want to go, but it was interesting. So Del Pre, which, you know, Jay, you turned me on to Mike Del Pre's information. His newsletter comes out, and he's always got just fire information in there, just a lot of great stuff. And last week, his newsletter was about the information of Rocket acquiring Redfin. And he breaks down a lot of things in there, and things that he mentions and talks about, something that all of us have been chasing, you know, especially, you know, in conversations when teams were starting to become a thing, and really that was kind of the direction and where things were at in the industry. And all of our conversation was always around, how do we control the consumer experience, right? The holy grail to be able to be a one-stop shop. And that's really what his newsletter was kind of breaking down and showing, and where all the moves that are being made, where is the direction, where are things going, who's doing what. Redfin, obviously with Rocket making the move with Redfin, then you hear, chatters of what's Compass going to do, what's Berkshire doing. And then you start to think about and start playing some, what if scenarios here, who's going to be navigating where are things going? So I would love to let's just jump in right there, because we're starting to see some moves. It's things that we've been talking about for years, and it's really starting to play out, legacy brands, obviously with what Gary did with, the money. And it's just interesting to see, and navigating into the second half of the decade, new administration. It's just really wild what's happening right now in just on the planet, but real estate, business and real estate in general. I'd love to get y'all's take, just kind of as we're starting to see people starting to make some moves.
Yeah, I have some opinions. I should probably start with a full legal disclosure. These are my opinions, not the opinions of any of EXP or any of our affiliated companies. But yeah, no, I mean, I've always been fascinated with Glenn Kelman. Like, that dude, I mean, he rode that train as long and as hard as you could ride that train, the race to the bottom, trying to be the cheapest. The consumer wants, they don't want the lowest. I think it's just proof. First of all, let's just call a spade a spade. That sale was not a win. It was basically sold for parts, which is what he said he didn't want to do. They bought that for the technology. That's the move. They'll probably do nothing with the real estate. It was just a bad model. They were here in the Frisco market. Just, they did a lot of volume. They just never made money. I mean, it never, they tried to go after the listing side at one point, didn't work. They were doing billboards all over the cities they were in, didn't work. It's just, there's always going to be a certain number of consumers. There's always going to be somebody that'll buy, the 4 tires for $100, right? Like, there's always someone that wants the cheapest, but that's just not, it's a segment of the market that's always existed, always will exist. I just wouldn't try to build a business around that, trying to be the cheapest. So seeing that didn't really shock me. I thought it was a smart move by Rocket, because they had, that what they did do right at Redfin was they built some badass tech. Mm-hmm. So, now they're in the portal game, and they're, a legitimate competitor in the space as it relates to that. So yeah, interesting, not super shocking, interesting, not a win. That dude, he was very interesting. If you ever watched him speak, I mean, he's just dead set that this is what the consumer wants, and they spent billions of dollars trying to prove that, and were proved wrong. So
yeah, they actually did the opposite of everything we've been taught and learned about how to build a successful business. They, number one, they took the cheaper route, went after the consumer that was looking for the to save a buck, and also hired the lowest skilled labor to do it, which is agents that, it's arguable to say that the highest talent in our business, they're not the discount model. They're charging a higher fee because they can command it, because they're providing a level of expertise that's beyond your average agent.
Right.
And so, Glenn took the route of going and dipping below that. And I'm not saying that all Redfin agents are bad or low skilled. All I'm saying is that the highest talent among agents is not going to go working for a flat salary fee where they have to be in meetings. And actually, a Redfin agent local to us over here recently came over, and this was actually about 6 months ago. And 6 months ago, he was saying that Redfin, this is before any talks of them being acquired, was actually changing their model from a salaried position agent to a full commissioned agent. And he's like, but they're still going to expect me to do all the same things, all the same meetings, be it this, be it that, run around like a W-2 employee. So he's like, I'm out before that happens. So, it's interesting that they survived as long as they did and grew, but it was because of the tech. And like you had said, Jay, they sold it for parts. He didn't want to sell it for parts. I would have to believe. Do you guys know what the highest valuation that Redfin ever hit was?
It was. I want to say it was 10 billion.
10 billion.
Yeah.
Sold for 1.7 billion all stock. I have to believe that's a loss.
That's an L.
That's an L. That's not what Glenn intended when he was starting and growing and trying to scale that business. So
right.
Wish him best of luck. Hope he's got enough to, retire and live a good life off of whatever, but he's got stock. He's got to cash that stock in. It's not what he wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
I talked to a Redfin agent a few weeks back, and they sounded pretty nervous about what they thought might have been changing, and wasn't sure what they were going to do either. Like you guys said, I would rather the real estate industry is the best industry out there that you can get paid what you're worth, right? Mm-hmm. And if you provide the value to the client and the customer, why would you want to, in my opinion, get paid a small salary and when you can just provide really, really, really good value and get paid, what you're worth and provide for your
family. Right.
What are we thinking or seeing kind of as possible next moves, right? Just kind of from a thought experiment, just kind of thinking through things, because obviously, we touched on, the move that Gary made with KW. So what are the legacy brands? What are their moves to be able to stay extinct? I mean, before they're extinct, stay alive.
I think this is funny. It is funny. The Anywhere brand, which is basically, in my opinion, like you should be anywhere but at one of those brands. They're all locked into this model. So is KW. They're locked into a franchise model. Even Gary tried to go and create virtual brokerage, and then lawsuits came up, and you can't sell a virtual. You can't have an agent go to a virtual Keller Williams if you sold a franchise in that same territory. So Gary's been trying to compete with us since the 2018 vision speech where he mentioned EXP 21 times. He was our number one recruiter at EXP that year because we only had 8,000 agents and nobody knew who we were. We were not even on the map yet, but we were making noise, and he put us on the map. And he knew that it was going to be difficult, but he knew if he couldn't compete with revenue share and our model, that they were dead in the water. And so when I see, it's not good or bad, it just is what it is. If you sold your private company that you built up for all these years in the worst market we've seen since 1995, that's a deal you wouldn't normally do. You would wait 5 years until the market's better and the numbers are up, unless you believe that your agent count is at the highest it's ever going to be. And that you realize you're not really going to be able to compete in the new marketplace of being cloud-based brokerages. So that to me, they're all kind of locked in to their models, and their agent counts are suffering. You look across all these legacy brands, and they're all losing agents, largely because the value props higher at EXP and some of our competitors that are in the space is cloud-based. So yeah, I don't know what they do. It's like organizing chairs on the Titanic. In my opinion, I wouldn't want to be at the helm of one of those companies for sure.
What's funny is I was listening to a podcast. I think you listened to the same podcast, Jay. We're not going to mention names, but it was very interesting listening to a gentleman who was kind of defending these legacy brands, namely, kind of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, which I don't know if you would call it a legacy brand, but they're a legacy model.
It's an iconic brand for sure.
It's an iconic brand, but I'm talking about the real estate sector of it, home services specifically. And there's so many different layers to all the different franchises and who owns what. And it's so complex and so complicated. The funny part about the comment that was made on the podcast is that he was insinuating that the cloud-based that usually typically has a leadership group at the top or one leader that drives things, such as a Glenn or a Leo or a Sharon, which I know we're going to talk about, that's a weakness to us. And that these legacy brands that have the franchises with many leaders that you don't hear about, that's their strength. And he couldn't even describe the value proposition of Berkshire. Since when Berkshire Hathaway, I guess, kind of acquired all the Prudentials, and a lot of my friends that were at Prudential were acquired, and they were all excited about it. They were excited about having Berkshire Hathaway on their side. I thought to myself, 50% of Americans do not own stock and don't even have any kind of inclination of what Berkshire Hathaway, why there's significance to that. 50%. The other 50% know. The other 50% do not know. I'm not seeing how that's a competitive advantage. Century 21 has a bigger brand name, even though they're archaic at this point. They have a bigger brand name when it comes to like Kleenex on tissues, right? Than Berkshire Hathaway Home Services does. They weren't able, not one person was able, even still to this day, to explain to me, what is your competitive advantage?
Yeah.
Explain to me in 30
Which is
seconds.
ironic.
Why
It's
is it
ironic
good for
because-
agents to grow their business on your platform? They couldn't explain it.
Right.
Because of
It's
the,
ironic because Berkshire Hathaway, and one of the things Warren Buffett says that is one of the first things he looks at in buying any company is their durable competitive advantage in the marketplace. That's one of the main things that he looks at. And so to hear, and I didn't realize this, but they picked up that deal with Prudential. The real estate wasn't the focus. That was something that came with it. It wasn't the focus of the deal. And so they really probably didn't want to get in the real estate space. They just ended up in the real estate space when they bought Prudential. And so, but yeah, I mean, and this all comes down to what we've talked about for years, which is who manages the customer experience. Right? The only value in a brand is if you actually control and manage the customer experience. And no real estate company other than Redfin, who tried to do it for less, which ironically, they didn't have any competition because nobody wanted to compete with that. It's difficult to be profitable in that space as it is, but to control the consumer experience. And we did attempt to try to do it as best as it could be done in our own marketplace and controlling the consumer experience. Just like Jay-Z says, I'm not a businessman, I am the businessman. The real estate agent is the brand. And that's what EXP gets. It's brokered by EXP. You can buy Dell, you can buy Microsoft, you're powered by EXP. And that's that by Intel in that example. And so these brands don't bring any value to the table because you could go to any one of those brands, ours included, and have a good experience or a bad experience, right? Because the agent controls the experience. And so there is no value in the brand. And so, and if there is, maybe they lock down some referral business or a business unit that they control. Well, what are they doing? They're monetizing that through the agent on a 40% referral fee. So it's not where you want to build your business. That's for sure as an agent. And I think most agents I talk to, even the ones that haven't been doing it that long, realize that, yeah, I ain't getting anything from the company. How many deals did you close last year that came from your brand? Right. Some of the newer ones may say, well, yeah, I use the brand when I'm explaining my value proposition as part of that. But as soon as you realize that you don't need that, you're going to wherever you have the what is the best platform for you to build your business? What creates what's the best vehicle for you to get to your financial goals? That's what agents are looking for. And, I think that, the last 10 years, if you look at how much money came in trying to disrupt the real estate agent and replace them. I mean, Zillow put more money into it than anybody. And they said, forget it. We'll just do flex and we're going to give leads to the best agents in every marketplace. And that's how we're going to monetize this thing. It's very difficult to control, the entire experience and not have a great real estate agent in the middle. And so I think, there's less money going after replacing the real estate agent at this point. When you look at the new companies that are popping up, where did Purple Bricks go? I don't see them anywhere. They came in, they said, no, we don't want no part of this. They left the industry. So it is fascinating to watch, but these legacy brands are in a bad spot. They don't control the brand. They don't control the experience. And so the company that agents are going to gravitate to, or where is the opportunity the biggest for them?
Yeah.
They all had their time, right? I mean, Sears and Kmart, they all had their time, but things have changed. And if you're not changing with what's going on around you, you're going to be in trouble.
Right.
So, no, Andre, I love what you said right there. And just kind of thinking through more kind of, who's going to make the next moves, right? And they may just not even touch the legacy stuff. They all might just sunset, right, as the agents die off. And that just might be their path. But you look at all the cloud-based models that are out there. I mean, what are a couple dozen now that are of that model? What are their plans? Like, how do they compete? How do they stay relevant? I mean, you can't run on fumes for very long. You can't give away everything for free. And so, like, obviously we have our crystal balls out here. What are we anticipating kind of looking as moves are being made, things are shifting around, over the next 3, 4, 5 years?
I'm really glad I'm at EXP. I think the opportunity in front of EXP is the biggest of all companies. And we can get into why, the runway is so cleared. The path has been cleared for us. And the competitors in our space in terms of cloud-based. But yeah, I don't see any other opportunity other than EXP being twice as big as it is now, maybe 3 times as big as it is right now.
Yeah. When you talk about, we were talking about brand and arguably RE/MAX has built a super strong, branding name. I don't know too many people, if you said the word RE/MAX, they're not going to connect that to, a real estate brokerage. Same thing with Century 21. What I find is interesting is that, as you alluded to earlier, Jay, back when I was with RE/MAX, they I think they got up to about 110 agents, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
It was like 110, 120. Yeah. They're under 60,000 agents. They're at 58,000 agents. That's a huge dip, 50%, in the hole on agent count. I don't know what that equates to with franchises, but I would not want to be a RE/MAX franchise salesperson.
Well, you never would want to own a RE/MAX franchise because you were just a landlord. So they used to be the cheapest. That's where you went. If you were, a top dog, you went to RE/MAX, and they carved out that space. But as long as you had a lot of agents, you could make a little bit of money. But what you find right now is most of these RE/MAX brokers don't have enough agents. So what are they doing? They're in production. So they're making a little bit of desk rent. And now these agents that are RE/MAX are like, man, I could go over to EXP and pay less than what I'm paying in fees. And I don't need this office. I don't even go in here anyway. So tremendous turmoil at RE/MAX. I mean, and of course, they came out with this super bold move, at this year at their convention, they changed their logo again. Wow. I mean, I'm sure everybody was super excited and pumped about that. That's, it's
that was the only thing they had going for them was that legacy balloon. And, like it or not, it's recognizable. And now it's not recognizable. No. The balloon, they shrunk it and they put the big words RE/MAX there.
Yeah.
Man, I heard someone on stage in Cabo. By the way, what a great event.
Wow.
Cheers to Brent and James Group and Brent Gove. Another amazing event in Cabo. But someone was up on stage, and I can't remember if it was V or who it was, but I had an epiphany because it was like deja vu, where they were like, man, when I was at RE/MAX, my broker would stand up and say, oh, let all those agents go over to Keller Williams. They'll learn how to sell real estate. Then they'll come over and play with the big dogs.
Right.
But we all know what happened there. Keller Williams blew by RE/MAX like they were standing still. Keller not only blew by them, but double or tripled their growth, RE/MAX's growth. And guess what? Those agents never went back to RE/MAX when they got good. They just stayed at Keller. And then once Glenn launched EXP, they've been all those top dogs have been slowly coming over and joining us.
Right.
And so how did that work out for you? How did that rhetoric work out? I was in those.
It worked when they were, no one in the world sells more real estate than Remax. That
Right.
worked. It was like you were lucky to graduate. They didn't even take most agents early on. It's like, man, we don't take new agents. Sorry. Now they're like, can you fog a mirror? We'll take you. So like, think about that. Think about that. Like, what do they represent? What they represent, what they used to represent, what they represent now. They don't really stand for anything. Hey, we got different splits here too. Yeah, we got, we come over here on a 75-25. We got this split, this split. Now they're basically in the same, the same as Anywhere or any of these other franchise models where there's no consistency, there's no standard, there's no, it's just a dying brand. Sad, but surprising, honestly, because they held that number one spot as the place to be as an agent
for a long time.
They had a hell of a good run.
Yeah. And I mean, you can always start to see when things are in trouble. I like to I'll just pay attention to how many how much turnover in leadership is happening, right?
That's a huge deal.
And that just is like, okay, right? There's really something happening there. And I think that's really kind of interesting to pay attention to as you start to see big moves happening in companies, and even what we're seeing in the cloud space, right? It's just really interesting. I don't know how much of a coincidence as you start to see, okay, well, that person left. Well, that person made a move. Oh, the reportings were not what they anticipated them to be. And so it's just always, as we know, layers deeper, but it's really like interesting to see things that are unraveling, even a close competitor of ours. I would love y'all's take as, obviously the move with Spring, then Sharon obviously staying within, but getting out of the day-to-day. What's happening?
Yeah. So first of all, let me tell you an interesting stat. 9.2 agents every single day are coming back to EXP. I had 11 calls. I was on 11 calls yesterday. Three of them were three-way calls. Two of those three had been at EXP before, and they're coming back. So, I think that plays a lot to the current condition of the marketplace. You've been in the business for years, and the last 3 years have been tough. The first year, man, I love my broker. I'm not going anywhere. The second year, like, man, this sucks. I got to do something different. Not really ready to make a move. The third year of this down cycle, you're like, all right, there's got to be a better way, right? And so the people are open now, more open-minded than they've ever been, and they're looking to where's the place that everybody's going, and it's EXP. And I want to make a point too, because we rode through when trying to keep the wheels between the ditches between 20,000 and 80,000 agents. Yeah. Extremely difficult to do that and and lead with cash flow. So we did this profitably, which says a tremendous amount about the model and the executive team and the execution. But if you go and you look under the hood of our machine right now, and you look at the statistics and you look at what they're measuring on a daily basis from an operational efficiency, it is by far the most impressive thing about EXP. The fact that, the whole time is less than 30 seconds, like our net promoter score at EXP is 76, I believe it is. 77. Unheard of across great companies anywhere. Like, that is unbelievable. And it's because they're measuring things that matter. First tier support. You got a question at EXP, something like 70% of the time it gets answered by the first person. They don't have to go ask somebody else. They can solve that problem right there with you on the phone, and you don't have to wait. So the speed at which things are happening, and this was something that Leo told me, and one of the events he was speaking at that I was at recently, and he's like, when agents come back to EXP, it's like they left and they're like, man, the grass is greener over here now. I'm going to go over here for a while. They go over there and they realize, man, they don't even pay me the same day. That, like, the things that we're doing that makes life easier for an agent is almost getting taken for granted. It's so easy, so fast, so good. And then you go over to an older, slow dinosaur company, and it's like, man, I feel like I just walked into Blockbuster, and I'm going to have to rewind my tape and bring it back. Like, this is not the same. And so they want to come back to where the efficiencies are and where things are easy, and now we've taken the spot as the number one training company in real estate. That used to be KW. KW had the best training. Right now, guys, you know this. We what did we train on? It wasn't EOS, but before that, we trained on EOS. Basically, the first version of EOS. We roll that out every 6 weeks. If you're a team and you want to get trained, we used to have to pay for this level of coaching to learn how to strategically grow your business. That masterminds with the top agents in the world happening every day at EXP. You want to get around the best people. That's how we've all become successful. That's happening every day at EXP. Oh, you're a new agent. What's your game plan? I have the new guy that joined that I told y'all that was my Uber driver, right? So he takes me to the Mavs game, tells me I'm getting into real estate, doesn't have any idea who I am. I've got Ryan Finch in the car with me who used to sell thousands of homes. And it's like, this guy just hit the lottery as far as his Uber ride, you know what I'm saying? Like with somebody that could help him. And he's like, I interviewed 8 brokerages. And I said, go to the brokerage that you talked to. I said, ask them what they're going to do from day 1 to day 90 to help you sell a house. And so he did. And she fired him. She got mad. She didn't have an answer. If you think it's more valuable over there, then you can just go over there. Well, that's because people don't do anything for you. So if you come over here and we show them what we're going to do for them, plus there's Fast Cap, the numbers coming out of Fast Cap are freaking mind blowing. Like, I mean, it's early stages, but like you come over and you're a new agent, we got the best training in the world to get you into production. There's a plan for you. My joke that I say to everybody these days is like, when you got your real estate license, they should have just gave you a plaque that says, figure it out, because that's what it feels like. Right. And so everybody in the industry is like, yep, that's what it feels like. But we're just getting better and better and better and better. And what's happening is we're just getting further ahead of the competitors in the space. And so we've got, this interesting thing that's happened with Real, and I'll get to the point here. With Real, they're at 20,000 agents, and they just hit the biggest headwind that we didn't hit until 80,000. We knew there was going to be competition. Everyone that's out in the space that competes against EXP, what's their story? What is their brand? What do they stand for? They're going to be the next EXP. The next EXP. We're going to be like, come over here. You'll be the next Brent Gove. You'll be the next Gene Frederick. The stock's going to go up. You saw what happened at EXP. Come over here. It's going to be the same. And so they all took little pieces of our model. And interestingly enough, they copied our model, but they didn't copy our core values. So they're not agile. They're certainly not profitable in most cases. Many of them are operating on so much less company dollar to try to implement the people that you need to make agents happy. So when there's a problem at 20,000 agents, let me tell you at EXP how it looked. When there was a problem, we would scream to the rooftops, help, y'all, this is a problem. Help. And then about 2-3 weeks, maybe a month later, it would get handled. And we'd be like, God dang, glad they fixed that, because that was a real problem. And then, and that was a long time for us to wait. Like, it wasn't happening instantly because we were facing these headwinds. And so, and that's just actually at that point, no headwinds. That was just us trying to navigate, keep the wheels between the dishes. Can you hire fast enough? Can you put the right people in place? Can you cascade down leadership at a pace at which you can scale? And we made it through all that, only to have all this competition where the grass is greener, come over here. And most of the people that left are the agents that didn't do nothing while they were here. And they said, this time I'm going to do it. I'm going to go over there this time and I'm going to take advantage of it. That's who left. And they went over there. Whether they take advantage of it or not, I don't know. But that's most likely not the case. And so many of these Me Too companies, I call it the Me Too movement, many of them are struggling. They're probably not going to survive. I know one of them, Epic, I've heard is terrible at paying agents on time, which is the rule number 1 in brokerage: pay your agents on time. Rule number 2, pay your agents on time. That's a big problem. Yes. The ability to do organizational excellence at scale is our competitive advantage now, because now you can't get in the game and compete with us. And the opportunity is bigger here than it's ever been. So now, as we pulled spring away, do the math, and you understand the opportunities really over here. And then we roll out. Oh, you know what? I got on a call with Sharon. Love the guy. By the way, mad respect. Sharon is a real OG. Think he's absolutely one of the best leaders in the real estate space. I give him mad props. And he pitched me and you, Al, if you remember. And yep. It sounded pretty good. And he said, we had the blessing of coming second. Said nobody ever. There's no benefit to coming second, because anything that you can do, we can do better. So what do? They have co-sponsorship. They roll it out. What is it? It's division. You can co-sponsor. That's great. Hey, me and you can go get this agent. We can bring them over to Real. Okay, we're going to split the revenue share, and 10% is going to go to the company for them managing that. We were all like, this is how dumb all of us were. We like this. we want you to do it, Glenn. Do it. And Glenn's like, let me think about it. He comes back and says, nah, that's not a good idea. Let's do it this way. We're going to make it multiplication. So now if you co-sponsor with someone, we're just going to create another spot underneath that, you and that agent. And when y'all could build a whole nother 7 levels underneath that. Game changed forever. Complete game changer. So what a huge difference. Now, anything you can do, we can do better. We just took all of your toys off the playground and you have no competitive advantage whatsoever. And if I'm the CEO and I'm facing headwinds of losing my number 1 recruiter and EXP is rolling out things that are better than what we're able to do, and we don't have the money to fix problems that the agents are screaming about right now, they're facing headwinds when we didn't have to. I don't know why he stepped down, but I can understand why he maybe saw something that was not, he didn't think he wanted to be a part of. I don't know. They say, oh, he's going to go to the board. They spun it and a bunch. Yeah, you don't have the dude that got everybody to join was Sharon. Mm-hmm. And Sharon ain't doing those calls no more. Sharon ain't going to be there every day helping you guys. You're going to see him 10, 12 times a year. If that, he is not in that role. And who do you replace him with? Who wants to follow that guy? I mean, that is leadership. You don't, if you didn't develop a leader from within, which I would have thought Sharon would have been certain that there was somebody that could step in his shoes if he was stepping away. If it wasn't something for family health or something along those lines, that and pray that it's not. But if it's not something like that, to step away says a lot because no one can fill his shoes and he has to know that. And so they're left in a really interesting spot. It'll be fascinating to see where they go from here. They are our number 1 competitor, and they're facing major headwinds that are going to be very difficult to fight alongside. At the same time, we just made the opportunity 10 times bigger at EXP for anybody that comes over. Let me give you an example. Caleb just joined us in Charleston. I'm at this event at Cabo. Caleb schedules a 3-way call at 6:00 in the morning. I get on the call. Somebody down there found out about co-sponsorship, saw that Caleb joined. Caleb's a gangster. She's like, oh my God, I've got 2 agents. I want to do a 3-way call with you. Would you co-sponsor with me? When Caleb joined, we didn't say, hey, guess what? Agents that are at EXP are going to be calling you because you're a monster and everybody loves you and they're going to want to co-sponsor with you. That wasn't what we told him because we never had that opportunity before. Now, as a major player that comes over, you have the ability to partner with anybody else in the company at the same time that's already here, that was usually locked into where they're at and couldn't even partner with you. They would cheer you on and be like, yeah, dang, I wish I'd have got that guy. Now you can work with them. That is fundamentally a game changer in a million different ways to think about it. And so huge opportunity now that where I didn't see how we were going to really make up the ground and like really start growing again. There's no question. This thing is about to explode. Opportunity is bigger it's ever been.
Yeah, Jay, I shared a reel with you that someone sent me. And I'm just going to say it was a reel that this guy was being interviewed, and he had dated one of Shaq's ex-girlfriends. Y'all can fill in the blanks on this one, okay? But he's just like, let me tell y'all, you do not want to try and date one of Shaq's ex-girlfriends, okay? So just fill the blanks in. I mean, that's the equivalent of what we're talking about and filling Sharon's shoes. I mean, he had us mesmerized. I mean, this man is the epitome of a leader. He's smart. He's sharp. He knows. You know what his superpower is? He can connect with a human being like I've never seen anyone else connect. It's magnetic. But it's not scalable. And so that unicorn, look, the one thing that I will also tip my hat to our competitor Real and their leadership is they're the best at spinning things. And so we've been seeing all these, I'm so excited. I'm so excited about the next chapter. And listen, with a publicly traded company being on the board, even with our own company, most agents can't name 2 or 3, 4 people that are on even our board, let alone Real's board. And one of the reasons is they work about 12 to 15 days a year, and that's about it. Okay. And now I'm not saying that Sharon's only going to work 10 to 15 days per year. He's a specimen built unlike many, right? But it is a big loss. He's been on so many. He's probably the only human being on earth that's been on more three-way calls than Jay Kinder. I don't think of anybody else.
Yeah, probably, man.
And
how
he
many
probably,
people
you know
voted
what?
that?
He probably got tired.
Yeah.
He probably got tired.
It just doesn't make sense, though, Al. It doesn't make sense. He did 65 keynotes in the fourth quarter of 2024. You wouldn't do that unless something dramatically changed. You wouldn't step down unless you knew there was a leader that could take your place. You're really abandoning everything you've been selling for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
You're abandoning it. Essentially.
I mean, he's had quite a few exits, where he's come in, built up, sold, gotten out. It's kind of been
surely it's not his stock vested. If that's it, man, that's weak, bro. I mean, and I don't think that I don't know the man that well. I just know him from the conversation I've had, and I've watched and I've seen him, and I think he's a great leader. But it's almost like he didn't like the headwinds. That's what it looks like. Like, this is hard. Because the noise right now, I know what it's like. I already know what conversations are like behind the scenes at Real. I already know, because you know what, they were like that with us when we started facing competition. The screams and the sky is falling. We have to have a zero cost program, or we're gonna get beat by LPT. No, we're not. That's the race to the bottom. Y'all
gotta have a box.
We gotta have a box. They're sending out a box. Like the noise from people that you would never think are going to be scared to death were scared, and they were screaming it. And so, like, to be able to have to deal with that, maybe when things are going well, he's good. Maybe adversity is not his thing. I don't know. I don't think that's his character. I really don't. But anything outside of that doesn't make sense. If you stepped away, if your stock obviously vested, and you stepped away during the hardest time, then he's not the person I thought he was. That would be the case.
Well, Gene Frederick took, when he came over, there was a stock, agreement made for him. If, it was the whole company's growth, though, was based upon it. And frankly, Glenn has even said, he's like, when I made that deal with Gene, I didn't think we'd hit those numbers. We didn't just hit them. We blew those numbers away. And, but Gene was still, he's still in the pocket. Gene doesn't have to work no more.
Right.
Gene can be living on his yacht over in Puerto Rico and not have to tend to anything for the rest of his life, but he's still in the pocket. Exactly. And when you talk about, that's actually a really good point, because I was thinking about it, and you can copy our model. You can try to copy our model. That's fine. But you know what you don't have? You don't have a Gene Frederick. You don't have, Rob Flick. I looked over at the pool, and I was like, what is everybody over there gathering around? Like, everyone at the pool kind of just left everything, and it just kind of like sucked over here by this one area. I'm like, who is holding court? Rob Flick.
Yeah, I saw that too. It looked like church was in session.
There's no Brent. You're not going to duplicate a Brent Gove. They don't have that. It's an intangible. It's an intangible.
Let me tell you what else they don't have. And this is super important, by the way. They don't have a true visionary leader. They don't have Glenn Sanford, the visionary that created this company. They didn't have that. All they did was see something working really well and say, we want to try to do it too. That's not a true visionary. They just copied our model. That's not a true visionary leader. And I've watched from every decision that's been made. Now, we've gone through tremendous leadership changes, and every time we did, we leveled up our leadership. And guess what? Our competitors will take the person that it took us to get to here was not the person it took to get to here. That Glenn understands that. Our leadership team understands that. You got to level up leaders to go from, it's the ones and threes. John, you talk about it all the time. That is, we went through that cycle. Okay, that was a good person to have here for a period, and then we had to up level our leadership. That was interesting to watch. I was fascinated by how well and how quickly we replaced leaders that were not the right leaders, and then watch our competitors take them and get all excited like they did something big here. So that's an interesting thing. But you don't have Glenn. You weren't the visionary. Glenn, when he came up with this co-sponsorship, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Are you out of your mind? I would have never thought of it doing it that way in a million. If you give me all the time in the world, I would have screwed it up. That is a visionary leader. Now, other thing, and I will tell you, this is our superhero power right now, is Leo Pareja. I will put that dude up against anybody. I'll go into battle with that dude anytime. And we just went through 18 months of the Me Too movement of all these competitors, and he navigated that with brilliance and as an industry leader, and led the industry with Leo and what he's been doing, at the same time executing operational excellence at scale and adding more value to agents being the focus. Glenn's vision, run it through the filter. Does this add value to the agent? Yes, do it. Get better at it. And Leo's been executing that flawlessly across the board. There's nobody that I've seen. And I say Sharon was a great leader. Leo can run circles around him. I mean, I've watched the two of them. He's good. He ain't Leo. And Leo did it during one of the hardest times in this company's existence. And I got to give that dude mad props, man. I am thoroughly grateful that he is at EXP.
Yeah.
The mindset too, as well. Everybody that, underneath Glenn and Leo, from the brokers to, the people in charge of all the education. I mean, Brian Ellington, he's phenomenal. Just to share just a really quick story with him, just a few weeks ago, I had one of my agents that they're going through fast cap, and there was something they weren't happy about. I forget exactly what it was, but she mentioned to me, it's great, but she wasn't happy about this. I messaged that on Workplace to Brian. Brian took that information, picked up the phone, called her, talked to her about opinion, and made some changes that was better because they were open for ideas and they're open to get better. They always are looking how to scale up and make things better. And they'll take, the ideas from this agent's been in EXP for like 6 months. But that's amazing. That's leadership. And it goes from the brokers to, all the way up to the top. And it's because of Glenn and Leo and what they're doing.
Yep. And I'm telling you, our competitors can't make that. Our competitors can't move at that pace. That is our advantage. It's our competitive advantage right now, that we have great people, great leaders, enough people in every department to execute on a game plan, and they do not. And so when there's a problem like that, it falls on deaf ears. Nobody does anything until it becomes the biggest fire that's burning, and it has to be a problem that gets solved. It gets put into the queue. It gets put on the list of things we'd like to do that we can't get to yet. And that's the problem with being a competitor of ours, is you have to sit and wait for that to get better, knowing we're just getting stronger all the while. And that's why I showed it at One Big Fire. I showed my favorite photo, which is the Secretariat photo when he wins the Triple Crown and he's looking back, which they never do as a jockey. Looking back at the competition, they were so far behind. There was no way in the world. It was one of the greatest wins of all time in horse racing. But that is where we are right now. And we literally are just getting started. This co-sponsor thing, it's like, it's game theory. Once that move gets made, and not everybody in the company knows it, by the way. When I was at Cabo, I think they kind of strategically slow released this. They let some leaders know. They put a little video out. No big announcement. Hey, this is going to start May 1. And, we'll see kind of how things flow out from here. But in the meantime, people are catching wind of this. And then while I was there at the beginning, I was out. I think about 10% of the people here understand what just happened. And then bump into another person. They're like, hey, this co-sponsorship, tell me about it. What do you think? What is this? How's this going to work? And I'm like, okay, they're starting to get it. But when the entire company, 85,000 agents, realize that the gates are unlocked and you can now bring in someone to work with you, and that it's the biggest game. There's so many scenarios where that is helpful. And for the people that are here for the opportunity, which there's some people here that just want to sell more real estate, and that's what we help them do. And there's some people that are here for the opportunity. If you're looking for opportunity, you are absolutely going to be at EXP. There is no question about it. So just a phenomenal opportunity. And again, it all revolves around, does this help agents, right? Does it help an agent if they can bring in someone that could solve a problem for them, or someone that has a real estate office they can go to, or whatever the case may be, million scenarios you can think of? Absolutely, it helps the agent. So now, I think it's going to restart the engine, and, it'll be fascinating to see what the growth looks like the next 12 to 18 months. But, if you've been sitting around waiting, thinking you missed the opportunity, you better get your ass over here, because it's about to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's really awesome to see is, one, with the co-sponsor, working with, so many agents that obviously have teams and focused on production, that they've had to bring in somebody to help them operate that is not aligned to them. Mm-hmm. Now it's going to all work out. And it's always been a kind of an issue, right? But hey, you know, I love them in here, but they're not in my downline. Like, you know, I don't want them to build. That's off the table now, right? So it's really cool to see that. But
it's
really
solved
cool
so many problems. And this is why I love Leo. You know what Leo said? He said 92% of their support tickets, this solves the problem.
Mm-hmm. And I think go back to, you know, how we all go about making decisions. And I think that's what ultimately comes down to. And Leo's a guy that doesn't like noise. And what that means is that if 92% of the complaints coming my way, I'm going to fix it. Period.
Yep.
It's a good lesson.
Yeah.
Really good lesson. Well, fellas, absolute fire. Always great to chop it in, get our, you know, y'all's perspectives, kind of where the industry is, where the company is, where things are going. And yeah, definitely buckle up. It's going to be an interesting 12, 18, 24 months. That's for sure. But
Blue skies ahead, folks. Blue skies ahead.
Hey, here's the price of eggs coming down, boys.
Right on.
Fantastic.
Hey, you mentioned that, you know, EXP is where the pros go to grow, and where people, if you want an opportunity, this is the place. And on the other side of that, production, if you're looking to grow, obviously this is the place as well. I want to hats off to you guys for building that lead generation system. You know, we've been sharing with our business partners a $50,000 a month lead gen system and team that you guys have put together, and basically just handing it down to your business partners. That's just a game changer. It's already working. We already have agents that are selling houses, that weren't selling houses, that are, you know, adding 1 to 5 deals a month to their bottom line. And that's not everyone in the company, but that's because, you know, with our group and what you guys are doing in Honey Badger Nation. And when you think about some of these other competitors or some of these other companies, they don't even allow your partners to do anything unless you scale it to the entire company, which obviously you just can't do.
Yeah, it's a crazy, it's nuts. I mean, it's nuts. And I told Glenn this in the very beginning, because there was a little bit of noise about, you know, some of the things that we were doing to add value to agents. And I told Glenn, I said, Glenn, if you're telling me I can't add value to agents that I bring to this company, then I'm at the wrong company. And he's like, that's not what I'm saying. He said, you know, there's ways that you could do it. How many ways are there? You know, he hit me with like the ultimate answer, and made my head spin. And I was like, you're right. I could probably do it differently. And so just to play well with others, because the goal was never to not play well with others, but the model that we have doesn't allow us to play well with others. So now oh man, I came under this guy and I didn't know any better, and I wish I could leave. You had to leave for 6 months and come back. Not anymore. You can go partner with that person now. You can bring that person in, and it doesn't affect their upline, or you can come in as a co-sponsor under them. There's so many ways to play the game now that we can add more value, but you don't want to take out of the hands the people that can add value, their value stack of what they're going to do to help agents, because that's the catalyst for how we recruit. We bring more agents because we figure out how to add more value, how to solve problems for agents on top of what the company's doing. We're out there doing it too. And you want everyone in the company trying to think, how can I make life easier for agents? That is a huge part of our value prop. It's not just the company do it. We're all thinking this way. Everybody wins only if they win, we win. If we can't help them win, if we can't help agents win, we don't win. So we have to think, how do we help them win? We wake up every day thinking, how do I help more agents win? How can we implement more ways to help agents win? And when you got a whole company of people thinking that way, and we all benefit if we are able to help agents, what happens is significant growth. That's what happens.
Yeah. So awesome. Andre, appreciate you. Fellas.
Love you guys.
As always. Love you. To the moon. See you next time.
See you soon.
See you.